Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Good News Tuesday. That's right, it's only 2 days into January 2024, and we're already looking at what good things have happened because, as we know, those modern, media, the mass media wants to show you explosives and dead bodies, but we don't want to show you that. We want to talk about the good stuff that's happening. So let's go ahead and cover that on today's news. Here's the headlines. Today on Before Coffee, meet the team turning marine trash into cash.
And scientists are returning beavers to nature.
Positive News Network found 5 things they learned by making a series of community-led mental health projects around the world.
And we look at good economic news in the United States.
Green Day takes aim at Trump and Elon Musk isn't happy.
Those stories and more, which is National Buffet Day. January 2nd, 2024 on Before Coffee.
All right, let's go into our first news story. I forgot to turn on the music. There we go. Let's go to our first news story, which is about France and turning trash into cash. This is from Sharifa Fadila Al-Shahab and Sylvain El-Fassi. At Sauvage, we are not limited to one idea. We can also innovate. We try to experiment. It's an everlasting quest to improve the quality of what we do. Scenes shines a spotlight on youth around the world that are breaking down barriers and creating change. The character-driven short films will inspire and amaze as these young change-makers tell their remarkable stories. We've talked about scenes before when it came to the people in India helping those older people have grandchildren even when their own grandchildren won't visit them. And now in France, they are helping to clear out trash. Towering cliffs and white winding coasts are the stunning backdrop of the Mediterranean Sea. But if you look a little closer, the surface of the glittering blue waters is littered with something sinister. Plastic bags, bottles, and food wrappers are swimming among the diverse marine life. The United Nations Environmental Program estimates that about 64 million plastic particles per square kilometer are floating on the surface of the Mediterranean Sea, making it one of the most polluted regions. Since 2017, Manu Lauren has been actively working in preventing Mediterranean from becoming a sea of plastics. Starting with an adventure. I decided to swim from Marseille to Toulon. I did 120 kilometers in 2 weeks, picking up all the trash I found floating on or underwater, Manu tells Scenes. Discarded plastics release a cocktail of chemicals into the water as they disintegrate, causing adverse effects on aquatic life and humans who consume seafood. Manu knew that such long-distance swims would help raise awareness of the problem. It was quite euphoric in the beginning, tired in the middle, and very depressed on the 10th day. On this day I saw too much trash, he admits. By the end, Manu had collected 100 kilograms of trash, but while he celebrated the success of his expedition, an important question was brewing on his mind. "What are we going to do with all this trash?" exclaimed Manu. After the challenge, Manu established an association called Sauvage Mediterranee that transforms the trash into eco-friendly treasures. The first product we came up with was bracelets. Then we thought that we might as well develop a jewelry range. We did earrings with recycled plastic, necklaces with polished glass, Manu explained. Giving unwanted plastic products a new lease on life is commonly known as upcycling. The method prolongs the lifespan of plastics often discarded within minutes of a single use. In Europe, single-use plastics represent 70% of all marine litter, according to the European Commission. Organizations like Sauvage Mediterranee strive to reduce these numbers by creating creative products such as decorative ornaments and competition trophies. The idea is to offer something beautiful but also something of certain value, Manu explains. Adelaide Ronqueret is the head of the production of Sauvage Mediterranean and is responsible for creating designs that appeal to customers. Once the designs are finalized, the team moves through the production process. First, they wash the plastic trash using an improvised pedal-powered washing machine. Once cleaned, dried and sorted by material and color, the plastic is broken down into a grinder, then melted into a repurposed pizza oven, and finally cut up into various shapes. The forbidden plastic pizza. We really built the workshop from A to Z, from materials gathered from our neighbors before they threw them out, Manu shares, attesting to the commitment to reducing and repurposing trash. Since its founding, Sauvage Mediterranean has amassed many loyal customers and collaborators, all like-minded in their eco-conscious goals. Around 30 cleanup initiatives across southern France hand over their plastic trash to the collective. We partnered with Sauvage Mediterranean from the very beginning. They've been picking up our bottles tops for 7 years, recalls Clean My Clinics founder Eric Akopian. Sorry, I'm not good at French. I really love their brand, and I'm a big fan. Eric was impressed by the launch of Sauvage currency. The coins are made out of discarded plastics. They created a Sauvage currency to reward people. Each time people come to our pickups, we give them Sauvage coins, Eric explains. The coins are minted at the workshop using a unique mold. As a concept, it works like any other currency that allows you to purchase projects. For this, we have to build a network of businesses that would accept the money, Manu says. New currency on the block, guys. Sauvage coins, made out of plastic. Of course, if you find the mold, you can just make them yourself, and then you can have a lot of coins. The Sauvage currency is the first of its kind in France. Manu hopes that more and more retailers will trade in the currency, ensuring the success of upcycling trash into something valuable. Manu dreams of expanding it to a much bigger workshop, and perhaps a futuristic one that is eco-consumed from marine debris. He hopes Sauvage Mediterranean efforts will encourage more companies to work towards saving the environment and protecting the planet. That's right, even you, probably, out there, you. Yes, I'm talking to you. You turn your trash into treasures. Just learn how to melt down plastic. And you'll be able to, hey, it looks all you need is a repurposed pizza oven and a heavy wash, a hot heavy wash, and you can do it. So if you're, going through your midlife crisis, there you go. I gave you something to do.
Just don't inhale the air that you're creating.
Yeah, always wear protection, that's for sure. I agree. Anyways, that's the end of my story. If you have nothing else to add,
right.
Your story.
Okay, more Good News Day. This is from sunnyskies.com. That's SUNNYSKYZ, sunnyskies.com. Returning pioneers. Beavers make a comeback in California after 75 years. Today's good news comes from Plumas County, California. The California Fish and Wildlife Department, the CDFW, has initiated the first phase of its beaver translocation efforts, making the inaugural beaver conservation release of making it the inaugural beaver conservation release in nearly 75 years. Collaboration with the Madu Summit Consortium, CDFW introduced a family of 7 beavers to Plumas County, specifically at the site known to the tribal community as Tasman Kayom. The newly introduced beaver family joins an existing resident beaver in the valley, aiming to establish a breeding population that will establish a mountain meadow ecosystem, its processes, and the habitat crucial for various species. Thanks to the leadership of our tribal partners and years of preparation, beavers are returning to their original homeland around the state. California is restoring wildlife and critical habitat by working hand in hand with the tribes who have stewarded these lands, Governor Gavin Newsom said in the statement. The historic release marks the initial release of CDFW's North American Beaver Restoration Project, releasing these creatures into the ancestral lands of the Mountain Madu people. Subsequent to this, a beaver reintroduction endeavor is scheduled for the Tule River Reservation in the southern Sierra Nevada. The CDFW reported that the beaver family has successfully adapted to their new habitat, having already established a shelter for the upcoming winter. They will continue to be monitored. The translocation beavers and receiving ecosystems will be monitored for multiple years following their release to assist the population movement, habitat utilization, behavior and activity, potential conflicts, moralities, and the need for additional translocations, as well as the ecological changes that result from the beaver engineering on the landscape, the CDFW said. So yes, this has happened before. Every time you put beavers back in a place, everything gets better. Like they create these pools, they create more fish start to repopulate the area, lots of native plants return. So yeah, beavers were here before humans started marking the landscape, and they created a lot of the fauna and flora, as they call it, incidentally to their own practices. And of course, humans decided to dam up rivers for a variety of reasons, just because we could do it, not because we had any real practical use for it other than to generate electricity for ourselves without concern for the surrounding environment or fish or anything else. Not that beavers have advanced planning in mind, but we don't even know. Maybe they do. Maybe they have little maps down there they're working on. Hey, here's our engineering drawings. Hey, back to you.
I actually recently learned that beavers can't have an innate urge to build a dam if they hear running water. If they're near a place with running water, they will start building a dam just from their own, I guess, internal brain. You must build the water. It's flowing. And so they just, I saw this really funny short where it was like a beaver at a water park. And it was just piling other guests on the water because it was a beaver. I must build! So I made a dam out of all the other people at the water park. It was pretty funny animation.
Oh.
But, yeah. Good news for beavers. Alright. On to my next story, which is a bit shorter than our first story. We're talking about 5 things we learned by making a series on community-led mental health projects. And by we, I mean Positive News has learned a lot about their series on community mental health. This is by Daisy Greenwell on Positive News Network. Guatemalan parents have an enviable child care situation, and stringers have the best job on earth. Behind the scenes on Positive News Developing Mental Health Wealth series. They're halfway through their series looking at the people and projects really changing lives through boosting mental health in all 4 corners of the globe, from Yemen to Liberia to Guatemala. What have they learned so far? Series editor Daisy Greenwell reports, stringers have one of the best jobs in the world. You may have heard the term stringer, but you will have read their work. Stringers are freelance journalists who report on the ground in all sorts of countries in news organizations, so named for the string that once measured their column inches and determined their pay. So far during the series, we've commissioned reporters in 6 countries, sending them into Positive News has commissioned reporters in 6 countries, sending them into the heart of some of the most impactful mental health projects around the world, often wishing that they could be there rather than at their desk in England, talking face to face with the visionary founders and the people whose lives they are changing. There aren't many jobs that allow such an opportunity to get up close, asking as many questions as you like of the people who really are changing things. Reporting in the Global South is a lot more complicated than in the UK. Behind every article that Positive News publish is a whole lot of sweat, thought, and logistical jiggery-pokery from a team of people, from editor to journalist, photographer to interviewees. Ensuring everyone is in the same place at the same time can be a logistical challenge. Even more so, it turns out, when it takes place in a country that is 5,000 miles away, both geographically and culturally. For the article published earlier in the month about the Indigenous Women's Circles, about the empowering Guatemalan women after decades of marginalization, Positive News commissioned Sandra Kof, a journalist in Guatemala, to visit the project. She immediately came up against an unusual physical barrier to executing her commission. Kof explained, Indigenous leaders led months of protests for democracy, including weeks-long highway blockades, in response to prosecutors' efforts to subvert the outcome of the election. Reporting in a country like Guatemala can be very tricky, because between political crisis and poor state of country's highway infrastructure, there's no guarantee travel is possible. She encountered a different but equally difficult problem in Yemen, when trying to photograph the members of Best Team, a free sports group that spread across the country, helping people stay fit and healthy during an ongoing civil war. On the eve of the photographer's visit to Al Thawa Park in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, where one of the group meets before dawn prayers, the government announced a ban on groups of people from gathering outside. That's normal. The Photoshop was scoopered for the foreseeable future. Scoopiered. I don't know that word. I don't know how to say it.
Scrap.
It was scrapped, I guess is how you'd say it, because these guys are British. Maybe that's a British word. It was scrapped for the foreseeable future. In each case, Positive News had no choice but to be flexible, adjust their plans, and plow on regardless. Guatemalan parents have an enviable childcare situation. When photographer James Rodriguez filled his shots of the Indigenous Women's Circles project in Guatemala, Positive News were interested in a spot of lots of women who were carrying on their backs babies that weren't their own. It seems that parenting in Guatemala is different than in the UK. It's shared out more equally among the community. It chimed with the new University of Cambridge study on the indigenous Mbendiyele Bayaka in the Republic of Congo, which had caught her eye. The researchers found that in the community, more than half of the baby's cries are attended to by a mother's support network rather than her. Would a British mother who is home alone all day with her baby agree with the authors of the study, who concluded that there is a mismatch between the conditions in which humans evolved to care for babies and that the situation many parents find themselves in today? A straw poll of my friends would suggest 100% yes. Oh my god, it's almost like two people aren't supposed to be taking care of a baby by themselves. What a concept. Community! Very important. Don't let your community get away from you, even if you're living in the UK. Once again, Nordic countries lead the way. What is it about Nordic countries and their ability to top virtually every ranking of human development? From public health care to education and happiness. Even those experiencing psychosis, one of the most feared symptoms of mental illness, they are far better in Finland. Just 50% of people diagnosed with schizophrenia are employed in the UK. In Finland, 80% of patients with severe mental health conditions return to work and education. How? Back in the 1980s, when Finland had one of Europe's highest rates of psychosis, psychiatrists developed a model of care that transformed the outcomes of those in crisis. Now in the UK is trialing it, with a 5-year study on open dialogue approach at the NHS mental health clinics in Dorset, Kent, and London. The results are due in April 2024, so we can only cross our fingers and hope that this will lead into a new revolutionary treatment for mental illness. Many of the most exciting grassroots mental health projects are happening in Africa. They are securing the planet, looking for great community-led mental health projects time and again. They seem to be taking root in Africa. From the friendship benches of Zimbabwe to the project giving CBT and cash transfers to former child soldiers in Liberia, and the Kenyan NGO aiming to end FGM through intergenerational healing, Africa is often leading the way when it comes to thinking on mental health. That's true. I remember there's this YouTuber who went to Africa. He hung out with like one of the kind of hunter-gatherer tribes, and he said, "Hey, you can sing really well. You want me to take you back to New York?" And he's like, and then the kid said, "Why would I want to go to the place where people jump off buildings that killed themselves?" That's how mentally sound some places in Africa are. They don't even have the concept of suicide as an option. They're completely unaware that, why would you want to kill yourself? I don't understand. So Africa really is leading the way when it comes to mental health. While Positive News tries to ensure a good geographical spread in the series, their main priority has to be with the stories themselves. Stories that show the most creative, interesting, and potentially scalable ways that communities are finding to ease their mental health stress in their lives. The number of African stories authentically reflects the most exciting developments in the world of mental health. If you have a project to suggest, go ahead and contact Positive News and Daisy, and she'll cover something that you think needs to be shared around the world, I guess. So there's your 5 things that a Positive News Network has learned over the year from all the stories they covered, and we've also shared with you, and I've learned. Africa, go move to Africa, I guess. If you want some good mental health. And let's be honest, it'd be...
I don't know. reach a conclusion from any of this, actually. It's just a sampling of mental health. I mean, it's like, go live there. Not what I do for a living. Oh, I don't know.
They do plenty of stuff
you got
there.
No money.
Africa is a industrious continent. You can
you
do
still
any
have
job
to,
there.
Have a reason to move someplace. You can't just move someplace. Hey, I'm here.
The reason is for better mental health.
Oh yeah, but good mental health. Okay, what are you gonna do for shelter? I don't know.
They have houses in Africa.
Just any place you live, you have to have a plan. You just move there. I'm saying. Yeah, they got it. They got houses. That's not what I'm saying. Any place you move. No plan. Let me move there. Now your mental health's gonna improve. You have no job, you have no money, but your mental health is great. I don't see that follows. You got no plan.
Maybe African society doesn't run on that kind of plan. Have you ever thought of that?
Having no plan whatsoever.
The plan of having a job maybe isn't so important.
You can't just show up somewhere and expect everything to work out.
I mean, to be fair, for example, the US dollar has such a high, what is the word I'm trying to think of? Basically, you can pay for a lot of things with $1 in Africa, in some countries in Africa. Like in, I think, Nambia. So, I mean, if you move to Africa with $100, you can get pretty far. And then you can set up an actual life.
Oh, sure, that's a plan. $100.
I understand why you don't want to move to Africa, because you don't have the complexion to move to Africa. You will get sunburned to death.
Has nothing to do with Africa. If it's Scotland, I ain't moving to Scotland, because what am I going to do? I'm going to sit in a hut in Scotland and go, and some guy's going to go, you can't stay in that hut. You don't own it. And I'm like, I don't have a job or any money. Oh, that's your fucking problem, isn't it? And they're going to throw you out of the hut. That's the way that works. I'm just saying, you can't just show up somewhere and that's where we're going to live. Nope. After a while.
And that's what's wrong with the world.
When you're the beach bum and people are giving you breadcrumbs, that might seem great. Great lifestyle choice.
Hey, some people actually enjoy being beach bums. Yeah, that's true.
What's that?
A lot of people are nomadic by nature, and they enjoy being couch surfing and being beach bums.
Well, either way, you might just end up being that, regardless of what your plan was. All right. Anyway, this is good economic news day, not I'm a beach bum day. This is from dailycoast.com, who's heavily sampled it from Washington Post, but I don't want to pay Washington Post pay window to read their heavily slanted right-wing headlines. So it's like, is Donald Trump bad for the country? You know, them kind of silly, freaking both-sider nonsense. So we're just going to report good news about the economy, because we're going to do one-siderism. Many forecasters predicted a recession in the 2023's outset, some even asserting it with a 100% possibility. Everyone expected a recession. Forecasters for U.S. recession within year hits 100% and blow to Biden, a Bloomberg headline flashed in the fall of 2022. Larry Summers, the former Democratic Treasury Secretary and frequent Fed critic, said unemployment would have to spike for inflation to come down. Businesses said they were girding for a downturn. So many economics were saying there's no way inflation can get back to normal without it entailing a period of high employment or a recession. And a year ago, I think many economists were saying the recession was inevitable, Yellen said at a Wall Street Journal event last week. I never felt there was a solid intellectual basis for making that prediction. But this didn't happen. The U.S. economy is on a track to avoid a recession next year as inflation returns to normal, according to new economic projections released by the Congressional Budget Office. We had an economic soft landing, what few anticipated. How? The Fed and the White House found a way out. The economy ended 2023 in a remarkably better position than almost anyone on Wall Street or the mainstream economics had predicted. Having bested just about all expectations, time and again, inflation has dropped to 3.1% from a peak of 9.1%. The unemployment rate is a hot 3.7, and the economy grew at a healthy clip in the most recent quarter. The Fed is probably finished hiking interest rates and is eyeing cuts this year. Financial markets are at all-time highs, and the Standard & Poor's could hit a new record. The strength and stability, defying even many of the most optimistic predictions, represents a remarkable development after seemingly endless economic crisis that started with the 2020 coronavirus pandemic and continued through an inflation spike. Biden's typically staid Treasury Secretary gave an unusually direct rebuke, telling reporters that economists who predicted the lower inflation would require widespread layoffs were now eating their words. It tested our resolve. We were constantly testing and resting the assumptions we were operating under because it was such a brutal period, said Brian Deese, who served as the director of the White House National Economic Council during Biden's first 2 years in office, referring to last year's inflation peak. But I do think the White House deserves some credit for staying consistent and for the president's conviction that you could transition to strong and stable growth without recession, even as we were being constantly questioned and doubted. Powell and Biden officials consistently maintained that they could get inflation under control without causing a major spike in joblessness. Fed officials often pointed to an excess in job opening vacancies, believing that employees could take those postings down instead of laying off workers. How did Biden contribute to this? The White House, for its part, deployed a range of tools in service of Biden's claim that fighting inflation was the administration's number one priority, as Democrats clamored to get prices under control. In October 21, the administration successfully cajoled ports to operate 24/7 in a push to unsnarl delays that pushed up prices. The White House greenlighted significant expansions of oil drilling to lower energy prices and announced the largest ever release of the nation's strategic fuel reserves as gas prices rose, overriding complaints from climate experts and other allies. Biden vowed not to interfere in the Fed's campaign to raise interest rates. He rejected calls on the left for more dramatic actions that some economists caution could have made the problem worse, such as price controls. Meanwhile, the right demanded that Biden reduce government spending. The White House decided to pursue major new federal programs anyway, arguing that the efforts on infrastructure, domestic semiconductor production, and clean energy would help inflation by expanding the economy's productive capacities. That's right. If people have places to spend their money, you won't see inflation. They have new ways to spend it. Ultimately, the economy would grow by a whopping 5.2% between July and September. Stunning economists who had balked at forecasting that ballpark. Here we go, using two baseball, what do you want to call them? Analogies, balked and ballpark. Those are two baseball analogies. Piled on a string of encouraging inflation reports in the late summer, and big Wall Street firms repeatedly slashed their odds of recession. Growth was stronger than expected a year ago. That's another thing that happened. Defying pessimistic forecasts, the U.S. economic growth has progressed at a significant pace over the course of 2023. Last December, the private consensus for real economic growth, as measured by the Blue Chip economic forecast, was negative 0.1% for the year. The latest Blue Chip projection for 2023 growth, incorporating all data available to date, is a positive 2.6, driven by strength in consumer spending and revival in manufacturing structures, investment in increased state and local government purchase. The level used U.S. real GDP in 2023 even exceeded some pre-pandemic forecasts, including that of the Congressional Budget Office and the International Monetary Fund. Sound household balance. Boy, you have a weird display on my screen here. Congressional Budget Office and International Monetary Fund. Sound household balance sheets and strong labor market are the primary drivers of U.S. consumer expenditures, which continue to grow at a pace close to the average among prior expansions. Job Gains continued very strong pace in 23, although down from the torrid rates seen in 21 and 22 immediately following the pandemic recession. Monthly non-farm payrolls grew by 232,000 per month on average in 23, 55,000 more jobs per month than the average pace in 2018 and 2019. As a result, total job gains achieved under Biden administration reached 14.4 million in November 23. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate has, to date, stayed below 4% for 22 straight months, a run not seen in more than 50 years. This is especially remarkable given the fall in inflation. There's all the good news, and it was almost all good economic news in America, at least in 23. These other countries are falling behind because they're saying, we need to do something about those immigrants. And the United States is like, we're fine with the immigrants. We actually are. We just got a bunch of people that just make noise. And the noise makers are the ones that make the news, unfortunately. Immigration is good. Bring your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. Bring them here. Bring them all of them. Get rid of these scumbags that don't want to work. Get rid of them. We don't want them. Back to you.
These scumbags. All right.
There's sorry.
Was that American propaganda for today? I guess.
No, I'm just saying. I'm talking about the American people. If you're born here, they're like, I'm entitled to a bunch of shit. They're like, you're entitled to nothing, man.
Well, actually, you're entitled to your government doing stuff for you, which they don't. So, I'm not talking about American government. I'm talking all governments don't do shit for a lot of people. So that's what you're entitled to. As a person born in a country, you're entitled to your government supporting you because you give them tax money to support you. So if they're not doing that, they're failing at their job as a government. That's my opinion.
There I go. That's what I get for making broad generalizations. I apologize.
In culture news, talking about politics, Green Day taking aim at Trump, and for some reason, Elon Musk gives a shit. This is from David Morquand on Euronews Culture. I'm not part of the MAGA agenda. Warning, this article contains language some people might find offensive. It's going to be a big year for the US punk pop band Green Day. They've kickstarted their 2024 the only way they know how, with a controversial bang. On the top releasing of their upcoming 14th studio album Saviors on 19th of January. The band are celebrating both the 30th and 20th anniversary of their Dookie debut, 1994, and the critically lauded American Idiot, 2004, this year. And 20 years after the release of American Idiot and its titular single, which originally features the lyrics, well, maybe I'm a F-word, America, I'm not part of the redneck agenda, now everybody do the propaganda and sing along to the age of paranoia. The band have changed their lyrics to reflect the current political climate in the US. They did so during the performance at Dick Clark's primetime New Year's Rockin' Eve, altering the lyrics to, well, maybe I'm a F-slur, America, I'm not part of the MAGA agenda. They still use the F-slur. Sorry, I'm fully judging. Now everybody do the propaganda and sing along to the age of paranoia. So they changed their lyrics. They didn't change the F-slur, but they changed, I'm not part of the MAGA agenda. And everyone cheered, I guess. The song was originally written about the Iraq War, the non-critical cable news coverage of the US invasion, and as a shot against George W. Bush. Now Green Day have got Trump and his presidential rally slogan, Make America Great Again, or MAGA, in their visor. And what better time to take a few jabs at Trump as the former president gears up for the second White House bid. It's not the first time they've hit out at Trump, most notably at the American Music Awards in 2016, during which they led a chant of no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA, in a protest against the then president electoral candidate who became president. So, in 2018, frontman Billy Joe Armstrong told a crowd at Cannes Lions performance, I fucking hate Donald Trump so much. I used to scream I hated George Bush. This one is a little different. This one is bad. It's like acid gone bad. Rather perfectly, the band also released limited edition merchandise last year that included the former president's mugshot and labeled him the ultimate Nimrod, a callback to the band's 1997 Nimrod album. Following the lyric change at Dick Clark's primetime New Year's Rockin' Eve, one person had something to say about it. No, not Trump, but somebody equally as desperately keen to be heard with a similar-sized ego. You guessed it, Elon Musk had to weigh in. Musk accused the band of going from raging against the machine to milquetoastedly raging for it. Huh?
What?
How droll.
Wasn't.
Musk, who does not have any consistent history of supporting either the Republican or Democratic Party because he's from South Africa. This is a reminder that he is from South Africa. As far as I know, he's probably not even a citizen of America. Maybe he is.
Shouldn't be.
He could be. He's rich enough. You can probably pay for it when you're that rich.
Yep.
In recent years, he's aligned more with conservative politics. And 2023 was quite the year for Elon Musk, who curled out the new name X. Saw the valuation from the platform formerly known as Twitter to half during his tenure as owner, and its ad revenue decreased by 89%, and cemented his status as the poster boy for online racist. Indeed, last November, a new report from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, CCDH, a nonprofit dedicated to countering online misinformation and hate speech, stated that Twitter was falling short in its commitment to combat content motivated by hatred, prejudice, or intolerance. Because the more hateful you are on social media, the more people that will click your website. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there, me included actually, who like reading stuff that make them angry and telling everyone else about it. And I can't believe this happened. Oh, and last year, also saw Musk make it to the Guinness Book Records for registering the single biggest loss of the net worth in financial history with around $200 billion. So, Elon Musk throwing out shade like he is anything, like he's ever done anything punk rock in his life. Yeah, Green Day sold out, but Elon Musk has been selling out his entire life. So, I mean, shut up.
Yeah, we care about what apartheid Clyde thinks about culture, right?
Oh, no, not his opinion.
Let's say that segregationists tell us how to live, right? Yeah. Standing on all those African gold mine, diamond mine, and gold mines, and whatever else they had them working on to create their own wealth. Yeah, I don't need some rich guy. Elon Musk, basically just a racist with a microphone. We have to listen to him. I don't know why. I can't think of one reason I have to listen to anything he has to say. Oh, is it my story?
Yep.
Okay, this ain't history. We're only going back to 1861 today. January 2nd, 1861, Frederick William IV, King of Prussia, from 1840, died at Sanssouci Palace on this day in 1861. Papa bad. 1863, the Battle of Stones River came to an end during the American Civil War. Although indecisive, the clash was a psychological victory for the Union forces, which were led by General William S. Rosecrans. In 1896, in this day, Dziga Vertov, a Soviet motion picture director whose Kino glass theory had international impact on the development of documentaries and cinema realism during the 1920s, was born on this day in 1896. 1904 is the birthday of American actress Sally Rand, who is famously known as a fan dancer, which was an early form of what we today call strippers. 1905, we call them, I guess they called them strippers like 50 years ago too, but 1905, the Russians surrendered Port Arthur to the Japanese in the Russo-Japanese War. In 1920, the most spectacular of the Palmer raids took place, where more than 3,000 to 10,000 were arrested in more than 30 U.S. cities, accused of being foreign anarchists, communists, or radical leftists. The raids, led by Attorney General Michael Palmer, were viewed as a climax of the era's so-called Red Scare. So they arrested people for having a political opinion. 1935, the widely publicized trial of Bruno Hauptmann began in New Jersey as he faced charges of kidnapping and murdering the infant son of famous American aviator Charles A. Lindbergh. He was found guilty and executed. And there remains, to this day, doubts about his guilt because he didn't speak English very well. 1950, German actor Emil Jannings died. Not a name I'm familiar with. 1967, on this day, American Republican politician Ronald Reagan, who had previously worked as an actor, was sworn in as governor of California. In 2004, NASA's spacecraft Stardust collected dust grains from the comet Wild 2, and cometary material was later revealed to contain amino acid glycine, an essential building block of life. So if you wanted to live on a comet, there you go. You could live in one, in theory. Not a human, but some kind of form of life. I don't know what you would breathe on a comet. So you would die almost instantly. It's very cold.
Yeah.
Our featured event, Grenada, claimed by Spain on this day, 1492. Grenada, home of the Alhambra Palace and the seat of the final stronghold of the Moorish kingdom in Spain, was surrendered to the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand II and Isabella, ending the Reconquest. Our feature biography is American author Isaac Asimov, born on this day, January 2nd, 1920, in Petrovichi, Russia. Died April 6, 1992, at the age of 72 in New York City. Other birthdays: Saint Therese Lisieux, a Roman Catholic nun, born in 1873. We already mentioned Isaac Asimov. We also, we'll say science fiction writer. They say author. I say science fiction author and futurist. David Bailey, British photographer, was born this day in 1938. Todd Haynes, 1961, American screenwriter and director. And Christy Turlington, American fashion model, was born in 1969. And what day is it? It is National Science Fiction Day. Isaac Asimov's birthday, so that's fitting. And National Personal Trainer Awareness today. If you're not aware of your personal trainer, you probably should be. Because you hired him, I heard.
Where'd that guy go?
Oh, what happened to my personal trainer? Oh, you weren't aware of him. He left. Oh, damn. It's National Buff Day, and it's National Cream Puff Day. So as you're going back to your third trip to the buffet, be aware that you have a personal trainer that's going. You probably shouldn't do that. And it's National Cream Puff Day. He probably doesn't want you touching those either. But he's probably okay with you watching some science fiction or reading some or doing an audio book or maybe a podcast. So National Science Fiction Day. Remember, science fiction is only fiction until it happens. That's it for today.
Until
January 2nd, 2024, and before coffee.
All right. This has been Allison here from the Netherlands, where I think the wind has finally settled, but we'll probably come back again. And tomorrow is going to be Wacky Wednesday, so we're going to cover the weird and wacky news that's been happening this week or last week even. So look forward to that. We'll see you tomorrow. Here is your mic drop moment.
The first law is as follows. A robot may not harm a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Number 2, a robot must obey orders given it by qualified personnel unless those orders violate rule number 1. In other words, a robot can't be ordered to kill a human being. Rule number 3, a robot must protect its own existence. After all, it's an expensive piece of equipment. Unless that violates rules 1 or 2. A robot must cheerfully go into self-destruction if it is in order to follow an order or to save a human life.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.